What's up guys, my name is Arina and welcome back to my channel where I review everything tech. It's been more than a year since the iPhone XR came out and you probably see these phones everywhere, simply because the iPhone XR has been one of the most popular and best-selling iPhone models ever since it has been released. Well, and of course, this year we got the brand new iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max, so I've been really curious to see how their cameras compare against the last year's iPhone XR. And in this video, as always, we'll take a look at some daylight photos, night shots, selfies, photos taken in challenging light conditions, and so much more. And of course, I'll test the side-by-side video quality and stabilization. Let's quickly take a look at the camera specs of these iPhones. We have a 12-megapixel triple camera on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, a dual 12-megapixel camera on the iPhone 11, and a single 12-megapixel camera on the iPhone XR. And since the iPhone XR doesn't have the ultra-wide camera, I won't compare the ultra-wide photos in this video. But you can see them in my other camera comparisons. I'll put the links in the description. So basically, in this comparison, the iPhone 11 Pro Max has the advantage of having the telephoto camera, which we could use for more realistic portraits and times to zoom photos, while the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 have to use their main cameras for all types of photos. And looking at the apertures of these iPhones, you can see that these cameras have equal apertures of 1.8, which makes this test even more interesting. And also we have the aperture of 2.0 on the telephoto camera of the iPhone 11 Pro Max. As always, let's start with some portrait shots. And the first thing that I always notice when I look at the portraits shot with non-telephoto cameras is the slight distortion in proportions. Oftentimes, my head and my hands look big, my legs look super thin and weird. And when it comes to the backgrounds, you can see how different they appear. We get a zoomed-in photo from the telephoto camera on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, so you don't have to stay super close to the subject of the photo, and that's why all the proportions of my body are correct in this portrait. And since the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 use their main cameras in the portrait mode, you have to come so much closer to the subject to take a photo, and that's why it could cause some distortion. Let's look at the next three photos taken in the portrait mode. And while the previous photos looked pretty similar in terms of colors and exposure, you can see how different these portraits came out, especially if you look at my coat. But when it comes to which phone produced the most realistic colors, it was the iPhone XR. And yes, the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max produced brighter and slightly more vibrant pictures. However, I'd say the iPhone XR is the winner here in terms of true colors. And in the next example, unfortunately, the iPhone XR couldn't identify the subject and the background correctly. The umbrella is totally blurred out. Also, you can see that my back is blurred out as well. And overall, when it comes to separation from the background, I have to admit that the iPhone XR's performance is the weakest between these three iPhones. And if we take a look at the previous photos again, you'll see that my back is blurred out in the photo from the iPhone XR again. And in the following three portraits, you can see that my backpack came out blurry as well. However, when it comes to skin colors, exposure, and overall quality, the iPhone XR is absolutely on par with the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the iPhone 11. Next, let's look at some random daylight photos, and you can judge them for yourself. Let's look at some times to zoom photos. A quick reminder for you guys, between these three iPhones, the iPhone 11 Pro Max is the only one that uses its dedicated telephoto camera, while the other two use their main cameras with a digital zoom in. So let's zoom into these photos. Well, in this particular example, the photo from the iPhone XR looks much darker than the other two, but I wouldn't say this is the pattern. And when it comes to the quality, unsurprisingly, the shot from the iPhone 11 Pro Max looks the sharpest between these three. A few more times to zoom photos for you guys. And here are also some photos taken indoors with artificial lights. Now let's talk about the front-facing cameras. We get 12 megapixel cameras on the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max, and we have a 7 megapixel camera on the iPhone XR. And when it comes to the apertures, all of these front-facing cameras have equal apertures of 2.2. And let's look at some selfies. The selfie from the iPhone XR looks a little faded here when compared to the other two. Also, the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the iPhone 11 produced sharper photos than the iPhone XR. In the next three selfies, we have a pretty hazy photo from the iPhone XR again, and I think the iPhone 11 produced the most vibrant shot between these three. But guys, this is not the pattern, and I also got pretty good selfies with the iPhone XR as well. However, I have to admit that the front-facing camera on the iPhone XR is not as reliable as the cameras on the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Let's also look at some portrait selfies with blurred out backgrounds. As you can see, the iPhone XR blurs out everything around my face, including my hair and my clothes. I've never been a fan of this feature, and I'm glad it's fixed on the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And speaking of selfie cameras, let's look at some videos in pretty challenging light conditions. It was a super gloomy day and the light was pretty harsh coming through the clouds. As you can see, the sky is flickering in the videos from the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11. However, my face looks overexposed in the videos from the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the iPhone 11 at times, while the iPhone XR seems to have done a better job here. Next, let's look at some photos taken in the dusk as the sun was going down, and you can judge them for yourself. And now let's move on to my favorite category, the night shots. The iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max have the night mode, while the iPhone XR doesn't have one. But first, let me show you some photos that I took in a default mode, without using the night mode. In this particular example, the iPhone XR produced the darkest shot, and if I zoom into these photos, the sky appears to have the most noise in the photo from the iPhone XR. However, all of the shots look pretty sharp. In the next three photos, the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max produced slightly brighter shots than the iPhone XR, and if I zoom into the photos, I would say they look equally sharp. A few more night shots for you guys in a default mode. And now let's look at some night shots where I used the night mode on the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the iPhone 11 and see how they compare against the iPhone XR. In these three photos, we get quite significant difference in exposure, and the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max give us more in terms of sharpness and detail. However, in my opinion, the iPhone XR produced a pretty good shot as well, considering that the picture was taken in very low light conditions. Let's look at the next three photos. I think we have a recurrent pattern here, and it's actually pretty cool that you could get such detailed and sharp photos with the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro Max in such low light conditions. A few more night shots for you guys. And now let's switch gears and see how these iPhones compare when it comes to videos. And let's start with the stabilization test. First, let's look at some 4K videos shot at 30 frames per second. I was actually walking pretty fast and all of these videos were shot handheld. And as you can see, the stabilization is actually really good on all of these iPhones. However, when it comes to 4K videos shot at 60 frames per second, it may be challenging for some phones, and as you can see, we get a significant difference in stabilization here. We get the improved stabilization on the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the iPhone 11, which is really amazing if you're gonna shoot 4K videos at 60 frames per second. And now let's look at some random daylight 4K videos. Now let's take a look at some night videos. So guys, wow! I honestly expected a more dramatic difference between the iPhone XR and the new iPhone 11 Pro Max and the iPhone 11. You could get your iPhone XR for $599, and while the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 are just $100 apart, the iPhone 11 Pro Max will cost you a whopping $500 more. Of course, you get some camera improvements like better portraits, better selfies, improved 4K video stabilization at 60 frames per second, and also you get the ultra-wide camera on the iPhone 11 Pro Max and the iPhone 11. However, before you buy yourself a new phone, just think it over and decide for yourself if you actually need all of these new improvements and features, and will you be actually using them? I hope this video was helpful. Let me know what you think about these cameras. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and see you in the next one.